So hello and welcome to our podcast, Dubai Wave. It's Lujain, and alongside with me is Professor Spencer Stryker. And today we have a very special guest, someone who is in control of so much art happening in Dubai and the biggest art gallery taking place this year. It's Art Dubai. We have today Myrna Ayad, so we'd like to welcome you here.
Thank you, Lujain.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for coming. So we'd like to start with a question. How do you choose the art? How do you say, like, when you're choosing the art that should be displayed in Dubai, in such a huge gallery such as Dubai Art, how do you know that this is the one that should be seen by a lot of people, that should take this huge opportunity?
Okay, so first of all, we can start with the art fair's remit. So we exhibit modern and contemporary art from all over the world. But we are the preeminent platform to showcase art from the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia. We appoint a selection committee, and the selection committee comprises 4 galleries. So we have a representative from each gallery, and then we bring in an annual guest curator. Then all together, we review the applications that come in to Art Dubai. The decision-making process is tough because we are an oversubscribed fair. Everybody wants to exhibit at Art Dubai, but also because the way that we evaluate is quite stringent. So we look at a gallery's history, the roster of artists, the kind of programming that they do, if these artists' works are in biennales and museums, has that gallery participated in other art fairs? So we just really evaluate the history. And ultimately the decision is the selection committees. We can only encourage and educate and influence as much as we can, but ultimately the decision is for these selection committee members.
Now, how do you become a selection committee member? You must create the committee.
Yes,
right?
we do. We appoint them, and it's custom for art fairs around the world. So, for example, we just recently reshuffled our selection committee last year. So we make it a point to keep a Dubai gallery, and then we try and bring galleries from different regions of the world. But also, if not from different regions, then at least a gallery whose programming is diverse. So they understand, if they receive an application for a gallery from Beirut, they'll understand who those artists are. So they're familiar with those scenes. And then the guest curators are also appointed annually. And they come with a different viewpoint altogether. So it's a curatorial outlook.
Cool.
So you wouldn't say that you're part of the committee that chooses, right? You appoint them.
You sway. You sway their decisions if necessary. But essentially, you are really one front because ultimately you want the best for this fair.
Yeah.
And you need to keep a tight lid on it being, focused on modern and contemporary art from these regions. Also, always looking to diversify and introduce something new. But then that's probably that moment in October when we're meeting with the selection committee, but the 364 days of the year outside of that meeting, we're working to attract new galleries to apply. We're looking at other galleries' programming, we're looking at other art fairs, biennales, museums, checking out. We follow the art and we try and bring it to Art Dubai.
Yeah.
So just taking a step back, I know this is your first year as the director.
Yeah.
So, and you are an AUD alum.
Yes.
So how can you describe a little bit about that journey from, like, what did you study at AUD and how did you go from graduating from AUD to becoming a director of Art Dubai?
I'm going to go a step backwards.
Okay.
I grew up in Dubai.
Yeah.
and I've lived here for 35 years. I'm originally Lebanese, and when my family and I came here, the plan was to stay here temporarily. At the time, there was political unrest in Lebanon, and we fled for safety. So the plan wasn't to stay as long as we did. But when we came in the early 80s, there were some Iranians here as well who had also fled, that revolution.
Right.
There was also a lot of Palestinians, a lot of Asians. So it was very multicultural. It still is.
Yeah.
So growing up here, I had the fantastic opportunity to meet and interact with those cultures. And the home that I grew up in was very open and welcoming. We celebrated everything, from Diwali to Christmas to Easter to Eid. We celebrated absolutely everything.
Was there a lot of art in your home? Or?
No, I mean, as far as visual art, my parents were not collectors. But every trip we were taken, it was mandatory to go to the museum. And they took us to so many musicals, so many theater productions. So it wasn't visual art per se, but they have, and they still have, a passion for history. And I took that.
I see.
I was also an artsy kind of kid. I didn't like science and math and all that. I loved psychology and art and history, and I excelled in those subjects. It's evident in my AUD transcripts too. And so when I graduated, I had these elaborate dreams of wanting to become a war correspondent.
Okay.
And then those were quashed.
Something to do with your background in Lebanon and the...
No, it was I had gone to the American University of Beirut, and there was still some political unrest. It was just impossible to be there. It was too dangerous, and having lived in Dubai all my life in such a sheltered environment, it was very alien to me, and it was very scary.
Yeah.
And then also studying politics in Beirut, it's a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
So I came back to AUD, and I joined the advertising program, believing, as I still do, that advertising is psychology, ultimately.
It is, yeah.
And I was very fortunate to take all of my advertising classes minus one with Dr. Lance Demasi, the president. And those forever changed the way I thought and felt about art, communication, psychology, whatnot. But my heart was still in writing. And when I graduated, I joined a boutique publishing house where I worked for 5 years, and we operated 3 weeklies, 2 of which were student papers, and we used to distribute at AUD. And the second one was in Kuwait. And then the third one was something called The Buzz. It was a Village Voice type publication that documented the nascent art scene at the time.
Okay. So when you got into writing in Dubai, you immediately went into art, though? Writing about art?
No. I did the student papers and then The Buzz.
Okay.
And then as The Buzz started to record more of the art activity here, I left and I joined a magazine called Canvas.
Right.
Where I worked for 8 years.
Is it still being issued?
Yes, yeah. Canvas
I've heard
focuses
about it, yeah.
strictly on art from the Middle East and the Arab world, and so I worked with them officially for about 8 years.
As a journalist?
As a writer and as an editor. And I had worked with them prior to their launch, assessing whether it was, viable to do the publication. And I just fell into it, and I fell in love.
So you knew that you're going into the direction of art for sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I got into the arts for many reasons. I think first of all, it merged for me so many industries. So there was politics, there was history, there was psychology, it had everything.
Yeah.
But then also, growing up here, I mean, I can tell you that I'm originally Lebanese, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
if I've spent the bulk of my life, all of my life, in the United Arab Emirates, what does that mean? Where am I from? And so I've come to the happy conclusion that I am from this region. So the whole of the Middle East is my country, and I love discovering it more and more through the art. It fulfills that void.
Do you find that others share that concept that your country is the whole of the Middle East?
I think that more people from my generation, especially those who, like me, are diasporic,
Right.
share this. We feel like we are one. This is our region. This is our language, and we want to defend it.
But is it in this for this gallery? You said that it's focusing on contemporary art. Is this a new? Is you change the theme every year, or
No.
is it something?
No,
that's
there's no
constant?
theme. There's no theme to the fair.
Okay.
It's the kind of art that we show. So the modern and the contemporary, and we actually have two halls, modern and
they're
contemporary.
Huge.
So the huge ones are the contemporary. So for this year we have 78 galleries in the contemporary, and we have 15 in the modern. The modern shows art produced between the 1940s and the 1980s.
Also, they're not new. They're
Those
not
no, the
from
modern ones are not new.
commissions. Okay.
Yeah.
So last year it was something different, or was it?
No,
also
every
contemporary?
year we've been showing contemporary art.
Modern.
Since 2014 we introduced the modern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we go back and just trace the history of Art Dubai? So Art
Yeah.
Dubai is in its 11th year.
Yes.
And again, this is your first year as the art director, coming off of being the editor of Canvas magazine. Right?
Yes.
But can you speak to like the growth and the history of Art Dubai? What was
Sure.
it like 11 years ago? What were they thinking, and how has it grown in the last 11 years?
When Art Dubai first had its first edition in 2007, it was then called the Gulf Art Fair,
Okay, right, yeah.
and it welcomed 40 galleries and 8,000 visitors.
Whoa.
And so 11 years later, well, 10 years later, it was renamed immediately, like the following year. In 2008, it was renamed to
Dubai.
Art Dubai. And last year, so for our 10th edition, we brought in 94 galleries and we attracted 27,000 visitors.
The gap.
But we, over the last decade, went over and above our role as just an art fair. So, I mean, as a journalist, when it had first opened and it went through a couple of editions, nobody can argue with the fact that it was a major catalyst. It was a game changer.
In terms of?
In terms of showcasing, pioneering and showcasing also art from these regions. And something had happened, I think, in the mid-2000s. In retrospect, I think it was thanks to the diaspora and those pockets in Europe and North America. People almost wanted to be proud, and they wanted to latch onto something. And so there was some movement, art-wise, and then you had influence and support coming in from all over. So it wasn't something just local and regional. It was totally holistic. And then so the fair diversified in terms of programming. So we operate a very robust community programming. In addition to the fair, we commission artists. Their work culminates in exhibiting at the fair. We operate a sort of art academy as well, a year-round school. We also host artists in residence. So there's a lot more that happens, or that has been happening outside of the fair.
So before that, when you were working at Canvas, when you knew about Art Dubai before. Did you know about it before, or was it?
I covered every single edition.
Oh, so it
Yeah.
was when you
Oh, I
were
see.
working at Canvas.
So
you
you're no
already
stranger.
had.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You've
I
basically attended every
Ideas
Art
about
Dubai.
it.
Yeah, I covered every single edition of the fair. When I left Canvas, I freelanced for a year. And so I was writing about regional art for Western publications. And still I covered Art Dubai.
Was that your goal, to become a fair director?
No.
No.
No, I never thought about it.
How did it come about? You were tapped to do it, or?
I had actually just reviewed the fair for the New York Times.
Okay.
And then I got a call from Art Dubai. And I thought, they're just being nice. And I'd also heard that they were considering,
An art direction.
opening a publishing arm. But these were all rumors, and none of this is true. And so I went and I met with Ben. His name is Benedict Floyd. He is the founder of Art Dubai, the Art Dubai group.
Where is he from?
He's British.
Okay, I found the video on YouTube from
Yeah.
the first, from 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's British, and he comes from a finance background. But he managed to create, in the span of 10 years, quite the art and design monster. So part of the Art Dubai group includes Design Days, the fair, the sister fair to Art Dubai that runs in parallel. Design Week.
Design District, yeah.
Yeah, our offices are at D3, and also Downtown Design, the Industrial Design Fair. So he'd called me, and I'd known him before, and we had a chat, and boom, he said, "We're thinking about you."
You're the one.
And I remember freezing, like just, But I remember thinking that if this works out or it doesn't, I was extremely humbled to have been asked. It was very heartwarming to be thought about in that light.
That's cool. That's great.
So that was all just last year.
This
This
was
all
last
happened
April.
Last April, like
Yeah.
Just
same
after
time.
Just after the fair.
2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the previous director, she's gone on to.
Yes, Antonia Carver
Yeah.
was director of the fair for 6 years, and she's now heading Art Jamil. It's a non-profit entity, and pertaining to the Jamil family in Saudi Arabia, that have plans to really support the art scene in more ways than one.
Okay, so as far what are some of the works that we should look forward to at this year's Art Dubai? You mentioned how there's the contemporary, there's modern.
Yeah.
The whole thing takes place in Madinat Jumeirah.
Yes.
Right? And it's a huge space.
Yes.
Hotel.
But what are some of the pieces you're most excited about that we can look
Okay,
forward
let's break this fair down.
Yeah.
So we have modern, and then we have contemporary. And
Contemporary is the huge
so
one.
there's 93 galleries in total participating,
Wow.
and it's really impossible to pick one. There's so many that I would very much like to see.
So even you, as a director, you think you will not see everything? Is it that
No,
big?
I think the rule with art weeks in general is FOMO.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a perpetual state.
You know what FOMO?
Fear of missing out.
No way. That's new.
So we have the modern and we have the contemporary. And then we have the Abraaj Group Art Prize, which is the most important art prize in the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia. And so the winner was announced in October, along with the shortlisted artist and a curator. And then from October all the way till March, they work on their work, which will be unveiled at the fair. So I'm looking forward to that, because it's the 9th edition of the prize. Rana Begum is Bangladeshi. She's represented by a Dubai gallery called The Third Line. And I'm excited to see her work, along with those of the shortlisted artists being Dua Ali from Egypt, Sara Abu Abdullah from Saudi Arabia, and Raha Resnia from Iran, all of whom, including Rana, will work under the curatorship of Omar Berada, who is a Moroccan curator.
And what's the, sorry, what was the name of the prize?
The Abraaj Group Art Prize.
Right. Okay, and that's it. That's offered annually.
Yes.
And what is the? Is there a monetary award? with
Yes, it's $100,000.
that? Wow.
Yeah.
No joke.
Yeah.
But they're like you only choose the like established artists that already have they're known to the world at least in most of parts of the world.
For the Abraaj Group Art Prize?
Yeah, for Art Dubai in general, like when you actually
no.
bring-
We show a nice landscape of artists. So from the emerging through to the established, there's something for everybody at Art Dubai.
And how do they reach you? How do they actually
They reach
get
the
your
galleries.
attention? Also, they need
Yes,
to be
to
part
participate
of
in Art
galleries.
Dubai, you need to, as an artist,
Yeah.
you need to sign on and be part of a gallery's
gallery, yeah.
roster.
Okay.
That's the way it works. And then the gallery will bring you.
The
as an
gallery gets
artist.
selected by the committee.
Exactly.
The committee that you've appointed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the art showcasing in Art Dubai, is
Yes.
it made just for Art Dubai or is it
No, not necessarily. It could be a combination.
Oh.
There could be
Things
artists that
done.
have created work specifically to show at Art Dubai, or not. So
Okay.
let me take you through the other facets.
Yeah.
There's plenty more.
Yeah.
Yes.
We also have something called the Global Artforum. It's the largest forum of talks in Asia, critically acclaimed, and every year it takes on a different theme.
Mhm.
So
Last
this
year
year-
was technology, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, so this year is trade, and it's titled Trading Places. So it discusses the trade of goods, ideas, and so on. And it brings in about 50 intellectuals from around the world. Some of the speakers that we've had at the Global Art Forum include Michael Stipe from RAM, Ai Weiwei, the Chinese activist artist,
Oh yeah. Okay. I remember that. Guy.
Georgina Adam, who writes for the FT. So big names. In
And the whole
art
thing's
scene.
on YouTube.
Yes.
You have the whole, because this is relevant to you students too. All of those lectures, I was surprised
Yeah.
to find them all on there.
Yeah,
You've got like 50-minute lectures, like 30 of them or 40
Yeah.
of them. So
that's right.
that's pretty cool.
So that's the Global Art Forum.
Hmm.
And we have commissions at the fair. And what we normally do is we commission artists to create work that's then exhibited at the fair. And this time, for the first time, we're going to dedicate all of the commissions to performance art. So as you're walking through
So
the
there's
fair,
also going to be a dance.
there's going to be a performance.
Flash mob.
Well, not really. And then we have the room. And the room is basically, as its name suggests, a room that's given to artists. And this year, Atfal Ahdath, they're a Beirut-based collective. They've just read Salvador Dali's book, Les Dîners de Gala.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're transforming the room into a surrealist dining experience.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
So it's
I've
going
heard
to
about
be
that one, yeah.
entirely immersive, very engaging. There's
How big is the
gastronomy.
space for the room?
It's where the wedding project happened last year.
Okay.
So it's in the modern hall.
Mm.
So the boys have split the room in two. So there's
Mm.
a banqueting area and then there's a cocktail area.
Who's doing the exhibit again? The Salvador Dali?
The
Children.
boys, they're called Atfal Ahdath.
Okay.
So they're Vartan Avakian,
Mm.
Hatem Imam, and Ra'ed Yassin.
Mm-hmm.
And they're based in Beirut. So
Mm.
the food will be inspired by Dali,
Mm.
the performances, the installation, the whole area.
And they're managing it from,
Yes.
like
They will be
even
working
designed
with,
it.
with us, and also with some assistants,
Mhm.
and then the chefs at Madinat Jumeirah to.
So
Their
people are going to
ideas,
actually
yeah.
be eating the food.
Yes,
there.
yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That sounds-
Salvador Dali inspired food.
yeah.
Last year there was this makers section with the theme of the Philippines. Is there?
Yes.
Sorry, marker section.
Yeah.
Is there a marker section again?
No, we've halted the marker series.
Mhm.
When we initiated Marker, the idea was to showcase the art from otherwise underrepresented countries or regions.
Mhm.
But then, as each edition of the fair, happened, we noticed that that art was being exhibited in one way or another, and none more so than this year with 43 countries
I see.
participating. This is a record for us.
Yeah, so that leads me to another question. So it's been called the world's most global art fair.
Yes.
And 44 different countries. So how did you get to that position? How do you attract interest from so many countries? And, you know, how did you become the most international art fair?
I think first and foremost, we need to acknowledge Dubai. Because the fair really acts as a mirror to Dubai. And though it serves as a mandate for the city, Dubai is multicultural, and so is Art Dubai.
Right.
Its geographic position.
Right, it's where East meets
Yes,
West.
yeah. It's smack in the middle.
Yeah.
Its history of hospitality, multiculturalism,
Sure.
all attests to the nature of the city and the country.
Right.
And this obviously then filters into the fair.
But you must do a certain amount of work, though, like you mentioned earlier, to reach out to these galleries and get them here from different places that
Yes.
are maybe not always represented.
Yes.
So can you give an example of one?
Between October, November, and early December, I went to Tunis, Cairo, Jeddah, Riyadh, Tehran, Beirut, London, Doha. I think I'm missing one or two, but
This is a cool part of your job. Right?
I really, really love to travel. I
Yeah.
do, but I love, again, maybe going back to my childhood, the exposure to these cultures. I really do love the Middle East, and just traveling there and meeting all these art practitioners, it's extremely rewarding, and extremely inspiring too.
So what are you, when you go to these various places, you're trying to find out galleries that are doing great work?
It's galleries, it's artists, it's collectors,
Yeah.
it's institutions as well. So
Okay.
we try and
Are you trying to find something undiscovered or find the new thing, or?
yeah, we believe that Art Dubai is a place of discovery, but you need to nurture that.
Yeah.
And this is why my trips, fulfill this. But also, we have an international director. His name is Pablo Del Val, and he covers more, the Western front.
I see. What's one of the more interesting things that you did discover in your travels? Something you didn't expect, perhaps, or?
I think, well, each country had a sort of a different flavor.
Yeah.
I'm consistently amazed by the art that's coming out of the contemporary scene in Saudi Arabia. I'd been covering that for a while as a journalist, and I edited a book called Contemporary Kingdom, the Saudi art scene now. And so I'm familiar with the art scene, but it's consistently amazes me. Tunis's modernist period was quite astounding. It was an eye-opener. Cairo is magnificent. Whether it's contemporary, modern, or classical, it's magnificent. Iran is a treasure trove because it's a country that's over 2,500 years old.
Right.
There's art in the way that the Iranians eat, speak, and Doha always puts on fantastic exhibitions. I was just there to attend the opening of the Picasso Giacometti show.
What's that?
Well, they put on a show of works by Picasso and Giacometti. They were friends, actually, even though there was a big age gap, but they were actually friends. And they both sort of went through the same periods and influences in their lives. So the exhibition focused on that. And I'd also been to Doha because they have a major retrospective that's still on right now for an Iraqi modernist. His name is Dia Al-Azawi. And that show should be going to the Tate soon too. So I think we're very lucky to be here and to have that access, to
gateway to all these type of arts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What makes a great art scene? You said certain places have a great art scene. How does that happen, in your opinion? Does an art scene emerge in a country or in a city or wherever?
There are, I mean, if you want to compare Dubai, for example, let's talk the UAE. In the past, you would imagine that the cultural capitals of the region were Beirut, Baghdad, Damascus, Cairo.
Right.
This is not the case anymore, unfortunately, due to political unrest. And so the dynamics and the geographies shift. I think in the case of the UAE, one of the reasons why it succeeded is, as I mentioned earlier, the multiculturalism, but also the fact that the diasporic pockets helped and supported from all over. The UAE art scene is really to be credited to a handful of people who really instigated, whether it was institutions like Art Dubai, the Sharjah Art Foundation, or people like the late Myrna Ayad, who opened a gallery in 1995 in a villa behind the Dubai Zoo. They really planted the seeds. And then afterwards, a couple of Dubai galleries in Al Sirkal Avenue, like Isabel van den Einde, the Third Line, who really, you know, paved the way and pushed. They pushed pretty hard. And then, obviously, the establishment of Art Dubai way back in the beginning, that was quite the game changer. And then afterwards is when the art scene, you know, sort of grew with the advent or the announcement of the museums on Saadiyat Island. So the museums came later,
Right.
you know, as opposed to in other cities of the world where the museums exist.
Yeah.
You know, this was the other way around. The galleries came first,
Yeah.
and then the
And
museums.
They were collected.
And the
in
galleries came
museum.
first, and then the auction house. So it's
Yeah.
a different creature.
On the subject of the auction house, so I've read before that some of the art you can buy at Art Dubai is relatively affordable. I mean, so can you speak to that? Whether or not, like for example, can students go there and potentially buy art, or is it out of their price range? And
Yeah, I think they can. I mean, as I mentioned, Art Dubai's got something for everybody, and price is such a relative term.
Right.
You know, what might be expensive for me might not be expensive for you. So it's all relative, but I think it's amazing for a student to want to, you know, buy an artwork. And I think it would be great for that to happen at Art Dubai. It's more than anything, if we can, you know, not think about acquisition, just think about asking. Just going and asking. You know, what's the story behind this artwork? You know, why does it, you know, why is it priced this way? Why is it here? Who made it? What are the influences? Who is this artist? I think those are the important questions to ask.
Yeah, I read here that some of the art galleries have works priced between $500 to $1,000. So you have some Dubai people who go and buy one piece of art every year in terms of building their collection. Have you heard that same thing? Or have you witnessed that?
There were artworks that were sold for cheaper.
Yeah.
I've been very happy to have witnessed people start their collections at Art Dubai, but then also transition into patrons. So I see that now they sit on, you know, the acquisitions committees of major museums around the world. They lend their their collections to exhibitions abroad.
So Art Dubai was kind of got them into the world of collecting.
I think so.
Yeah.
I believe so. I've seen it, you know, firsthand, and it's always humbling to hear them acknowledge that. A couple of days ago, actually weeks ago, an Iranian collector who lives here in Dubai was invited to exhibit his collection in the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto. And his name is Muhammad Afkhami, and he stood up and he thanked Dubai for inspiring him to begin collecting and to continue collecting as well. And it was very humbling to hear that. Not because I work at that art fair, but because the city this country is, you know, it's mine too.
Back to that
How about the film component of Art Dubai?
Yeah.
So you have You have a partnership with Dubai International Film Festival, Sharjah Art Foundation.
Correct.
So what do you expect to see? Some interesting movies this year, or if I should
This
say
year, actually is a year of tributes, I think, for Art Dubai, because Abbas Kiarostami, the Iranian filmmaker and photographer, passed away recently, and so we decided to dedicate our film program to him.
I see.
On the subject of tributes, the father of conceptual art in the UAE, Hassan Sharif, passed away in September.
Yeah, certainly.
And also as a tribute to him, one of our sponsors is Julius Baer, and their lounge will present an exhibition of works by students of Hassan Sharif. At the same time, Dubai's Isabel van den Einde Gallery will exhibit a monumental work for Hassan that he had actually produced for the fair, and which he finished before he passed away. And then as part of our commissions, the performances, Myrna Ayad, the curator of the commissions, and one of the artists, Lana Fahmi, will perform a tribute to Hassan around this work. And then lastly, we are inaugurating a symposium focused on the modern, which I would love for AUD faculty and students to attend. This will look into the lives and work of artists producing work between the 1940s and 1980s in 3 regions. But we will open the session with one of the sessions with a tribute to Salwa Rawda Shukair. She was a Lebanese modernist who died a couple of weeks ago. She was 100. She was the first Arab to have exhibited, female Arab to have exhibited with a retrospective at the Tate in 2012 or 13, I think.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the Arab woman thing, because I wanted to know, did the amount of women artists increase throughout the years in Art Dubai, the way you guys showcased their art, or have they been, the time didn't change anything?
In the modern and contemporary eras, there have always been women artists. There's 2 ways I'd like to answer this. First is to say that we always aim for quality. It's not about gender. It's really about the quality of art. And the second thing is, as the Middle Eastern art scene has grown, we've seen that artists have recognized that there is an opportunity to be an artist, to be a curator, to be a gallery owner. So we're happy to welcome more women into the scene. This year, for example, the Sharjah Biennale is curated by a woman. Her name is Christine Tome. The Sharjah Art Foundation is directed by a woman, Sheikh Ahwal Al-Qasimi. There's myself at Art Dubai. The Abraaj Group Art Prize, the winner is a female, and the 3 shortlisted artists are females. In Abu Dhabi, you've got the Guggenheim Abu Dhabi show. The second one is curated by women. The Sheikha Salama Foundation is run by, Sheikha Salama and her daughter Sheikha Maryam. They are women. Sheikha Manal also for little artists at the fair. Women. The lead artist is a woman, so I think there's plenty of women dominating the scene.
Okay.
So, as we wrap up, and this has been an excellent interview.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating in this.
Thank you.
Just looking back on the 11-year history of the Art Dubai, what have been some of the greatest successes and perhaps disappointments and/or I don't want to say
surprises,
failures, mistakes, surprises? Yes. Can you speak to that?
Honestly, it got better and better.
Yeah.
And it got bigger and bigger. And it is our intention to continue to strengthen its positioning as the most global of art fairs, the place to discover art from the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia.
You're expecting press from all over the world?
Of course.
Yeah.
And we do get press from all over the world.
I saw the write-up in the New York Times International.
Yeah.
And you said you wrote for the New York Times?
Yeah, I did.
I see.
I wrote for the New York Times, but that wasn't the first time that they read about the fair.
Yeah.
So the fair is no stranger to the international art scene,
Right.
whether that's press, collectors, or galleries, or artists. It's become a moment, a vital moment in the art calendar for people far and wide. It's an essential stop. And what we want to do is continue contributing to the community and also strengthening our position. And I think this is evident in our diverse programming, so that we've managed to redefine what it is to be an art fair in
And
a
would
city
you
like
say-
Dubai.
Like, would you say that the Sharjah Biennale and the Abu Dhabi art fairs are on the same level of Art Dubai?
I think they all complement the
Yeah.
local art scene here.
Mm.
And there's a sort of, positioning for each city. I've been saying this quite often, but I think the UAE is the only country in the region that has 3 cities that have
Fully
a
immersed
distinct,
in
yes,
the arts.
but each one in a very
So,
distinct
yeah.
positioning. So Sharjah is the Biennale, the museum shows, non-profit activity. Dubai is sort of like the commercial hub, the marketplace. But it's slowly changing. So it is the marketplace, but it's also, thanks to our community programming and also, that of other institutions and individual patrons, also becoming non-profit. In Abu Dhabi, you have the museums, and you have initiatives like the Warehouse 41 under the Sheikh Al Salama Foundation. So each city has a different flavor, but the fact that they're in such close proximity to each other, it's literally a drive.
Yeah.
And this March is going to be it's culturally packed. It's an exciting time.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was really a
Thank
pleasure
you.
having you here.
Likewise.